Hello my friends, welcome back to yet again another horrible day on the internet, and as you can imagine, it's only gotten worse. Yes, I need to cast your memories back to a situation from a few months ago. Do you remember this video? Yes, I hope you certainly do, and I hope you're definitely subscribed, because in this video we went through a certain amount of allegations, and in that video we pretty much went through a lot of things where it was very strange and peculiar, and honestly, it just in general wasn't a good thing. Now my friends, I am going to politely ask you to take everything from that situation and remove it from your brains, because, my friends, the allegations no longer exist. They have been removed from the internet, and they are no longer here. And you're probably thinking, Fraser, what are you talking about? Well, my friends, allow me to introduce you to part 2 to the Boyinaband situation, where things have certainly gotten weirder and definitely have gotten worse. Most people seem to now deem Boyinaband as somebody who, in his own words, was never necessarily taught the laws of this world.
I was never taught what laws there are.
And yeah, it's fair to say that based on allegations, if they were true, this could be considered quite literal, because most of the things that this man was accused of were pretty much absolutely horrific. Pretty much take every single hot button topic that you could be accused of on the internet as an influencer, and my friends, you have the Boyinaband allegations. And as I said, I covered this in a video where we critically analysed the original allegation, not necessarily taking any immediate sides in the situation, but critically analysing the problems and issues with this original situation. Because naturally when allegations are made on the internet, you do need to be cautious. As much as I understand people do want to support the victim, sometimes situations on the internet are very strange. But the problem I brought up with all of this in my previous video was the fact that this allegation was a little bit different to a typical YouTuber allegation. Now, when somebody comes out and says, this person did something absolutely horrific to me, usually it's in a video of where a face and a name is attached to these allegations. This was different. What we had here was a letter posted onto Reddit by an anonymous Reddit account claiming to represent victims in the double digits. And not only was there not a name attached to this letter, but also they claimed to represent people with no names, with no faces, and we were meant to take this as gospel, as truth, as real 100% authentic information. Now, my problem is basically, well, you should actually get some form of consensual proof that you are representing the people you claim to be representing and actually have their consent to post these things. But the only evidence that we actually really got were some screenshots in group chats that show 0 names or 0 images. It's just allegedly a group chat of people getting together like the Avengers and saying, yep, that Dave Boyinaband, he's an absolutely horrific bloke. Now, I don't deny that, but my friends, this isn't enough. This was a major issue with this situation. I am not asking for camera footage recordings of Dave Boyinaband doing some absolutely heinous crimes. I'm just asking for some names, some faces attached to these allegations, because currently anybody can make this Reddit post, anybody can make these claims, and anybody can say absolutely anything. But I do have to say, my friends, that does not mean that I don't think that there is any validity to this allegation or situation. In fact, at the end of my 40-minute deep dive into the situation, I pretty much came out saying that whilst I think that there is pretty much not any evidence for 80% of the things in this situation, I do actually think that Boyinaband is a very immoral and bad person, because despite there are some things in this Reddit post that really don't line up with everything, because there aren't any things attached to them, there is some evidence out there to prove that this guy has done some very shady and immoral things, in my personal opinion. And I think it's important for us to outline those 3 major things here. Number 1 being the most important and vital fact in this situation, that Dave Boyinaband was confirmed to have dated a 16-year-old girl whilst he was the age of 23, and it progressed towards she was 17 years old, and he may have went up till 24. That's just how age works, my friend, and numbers and all that good stuff. But alas, yes, it was proven that Dave definitely had an inappropriate relationship with a 16-year-old girl who he met when he was in her 20s, and she was around the ages of 14 to 15 when they met at Dave's own concert. She seemingly came to the concert as somewhat of a fan. I'm not really sure to the extent of that. She came, they met, and alas, they got into an inappropriate relationship. Now, I do have to clarify, in the UK, this isn't technically a crime. Now, that is more of an issue with the justice system because, my friends, the law doesn't necessarily dictate what is moral and what is immoral. In certain places in this world, you can marry your cousin. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. Please do not do that, my friends. That is very weird. But alas, yes, in this country when you're 16, you are still a child, and Dave was a 23-year-old adult male. Well, being a male doesn't really mean anything here. A 23-year-old man dating a child. It's disgusting, and it's a vital fact here. And then we move on to fact number 2, which does involve yet again another ex-partner of Dave, where they made a diss track in the past on Dave, and this does actually correlate with some unproven things in the original Reddit document of where it says that Dave uses his depression to get away with inappropriate behavior.
I see why you're avoiding me and blaming it on depression.
And it also included things such as not going to the hospital and using weird excuses such as their career and just other weird things to not visit your partner. And it does give a little bit of Gus Johnson vibes, you know, not visiting your partner when they're in hospital. It's not necessarily a crime, but it does just highlight the fact that, yeah, this guy is a bit of a dick. And also, it does lead up to things mentioned in the original letter, which didn't have any evidence to back it, that Dave uses his depression as a way to get away with doing nasty, horrible, immoral things. So yeah, we've got that backed up. And then we move on to number 3, of where Dave definitely does have an inappropriate relationship with his fans, given his last public YouTube post was a community post where he asked for advice from his fan base on whether he should overdose on medication or not. It's inappropriate, and yes, it does indicate a strange relationship between Dave and his fans. A relationship which isn't the usual relationship that I have with my subscribers. This is very, very close and intimate. It's different, and it's honestly wrong. But my friends, now we finally do have all the context. You now understand that yes, there are some rights in this situation, and there are definitely some wrongs in this situation, and that leads us into the main reason you're here that I mentioned at the beginning of this video.
Flashback.
The allegations no longer exist. They have been removed from the internet, and they are no longer here. Yes, this is a very, very real thing going on right now. The allegations on Reddit have been outright removed from the original user. Every single post that the user made does not exist anymore. You can go through their Reddit account, which does still actually publicly exist, and you can see that there is nothing to do with Boyinaband. There is no trace of reason for this. There was no note, there was no response or actual, I guess, reasoning in general to why this has all been taken down. It was just deleted. And my friends, my first instantaneous thought when I heard about this situation was, okay, damage control has begun. This situation happened in August, right at the ending or the midway part of August. This started to come out, things started to leak, people started talking, it blew up in September, and the damage control process has now begun. They haven't said anything, and the moderators of the Boyinaband Reddit are starting to take things down. No, that's actually not the case, which makes this even weirder. Sorry, this post was deleted by the person who originally posted it. So ladies and gentlemen, this is getting weird. This is getting a little bit confusing and honestly a little bit worrying for a multitude of reasons. Because a lot of people will see this and definitely start changing their minds on things. Has the internet made a mistake? And is Boyinaband actually innocent? Honestly, I don't believe that innocence is something Dave Boyinaband can actually achieve in this situation at this point, and that's exactly why I went through the things which are undeniable in this situation. Dave, when he was in his 20s, dated somebody at the age of 16, ranging towards 17, and got to a point of 17 whilst meeting that girl when she was 15, 14, whilst he was still in his 20s. That was a thing. They dated, and in my opinion, that's extremely immoral. Mainly because, at the age of 16 years old, my friends, newsflash, you're a child. So okay, if Dave isn't innocent in this situation, then what is actually going on here? And why has this post been removed? People may think that it's not a big thing that the post is gone, but I actually think it very, very much is. This post is the only real valid allegation that we currently have to date, and with that no longer existing, people will immediately start to think, well, what if it was inauthentic? What if the person felt bad and removed removed it? What if this? What if that? And they, as I said, will start to believe Dave's innocence, because you cannot deny that the original poster of this allegation was no doubt very, very suspicious. For one, over the last few months, people have been replying to the original letter before it was deleted, simply asking for evidence. In fact, I went over in my previous video, when somebody asked for evidence, the original poster did actually respond, so they fully acknowledge that people want some form of evidence, or at least attachment to the fact that this person actually does know Dave, and they just said something completely out of the blue to do with doxing, and they didn't even attach any evidence to that. There was just a fabricated scenario, and I have to say it was fabricated because I tried to do a deep dive into this allegation, and I could not find anything. So yeah, there is some weird stuff going on here, that people for months have been demanding some form of proof or evidence or screenshots other than a group chat, and after all of that, they outright delete every single post that they've made. And as I just said previously, they did reply to comments to do with updates in this situation regarding people requesting evidence. So it's not like they just posted this Reddit post and they just ran away from the internet forever. They have been active. So it's weird that they would just outright take all of these posts down and say absolutely nothing, which of course does bring in the question of legalities. Is Dave Boyinaband currently in a legal battle with this Reddit post user? Is he now suing everybody? Well, we will go into that later in this video, because this is a bit of a timeline, it's going to be a bit all over the place, but I do just want to go into some other things first. I said at the beginning of this video, I believe that this whole situation has gotten worse, and I do honestly believe that. I think it's gotten worse in two separate contexts. It's gotten worse in the case of, we don't know what's going on. Like seriously, what is actually going on here? Both parties in this situation are being outright silent. Boyinaband has had the opportunity to say something for 4 months, and I understand silence doesn't necessarily always represent guilt. But at least give us something, man. At least say, hey guys, I know there are things being said, I will address it eventually, because then we can say, alright, it's still a little bit weird, but at least we got something. But now we've just got absolutely nothing. I remember when Chaotic got accused of a load of stuff, the bloke said nothing and then randomly came back with the worst response of all time and then just outright dipped and never said that again. We're not even getting a bad response. The bloke's just dipped from social media. I've had a lot of people say, well, you know, he's not been posting for years. I don't care. This guy has the responsibility to respond to these allegations. I said in my previous video to do with Destiny Smith that if you don't respond to allegations eventually and defend yourself, your silence will eventually become guilt. Because I think at the beginning, the first few months, yes, you can be dealing with legalities and you can be dealing with building a big defense for yourself. It's happened in previous YouTuber situations, but it's getting to a point of, it's been 4 months now, how long can we really make that defense? But also, it gets worse in terms of the context of some of the things in the letter since my last video have actually been proven. One specific thing, which was one of the biggest parts of this whole thing that really blew up. It was to do with this lyric.
Take me without my consent. Take me without my consent.
Okay, now the context of this was basically in the original letter, they alleged that this was Rachel, the 16-year-old we have spoken about previously. This was alleged that when this was sung, they were 16/17 years old, and Boyinaband was 23/24 years old. And either way, making that joke to a lot of people is very uncomfortable. We do have to acknowledge 2011 was a very edgier time to the modern 2022 era, but ultimately it's very creepy, and even more creepy when you take into the context of the weird age gap relationship. But I said in my previous video, as much as this is an allegation, there is again nothing to really suggest here that this is actually Rachel singing this in this song. But actually that's not true, because there was a Reddit post made on the Boyinaband subreddit, a separate one, saying how the more they look into this case, the weirder and more confusing it gets, and recently they did an update to that post stating that actually it's now been pretty much proven that that was actually Rachel singing that in that lyric, which not only confirms that, yes, this is very weird, but it also outright does confirm their relationship, and it outright does confirm this thing of they were definitely dating at a very weird age gap sort of range, and it does confirm pretty much everything in this situation, in my personal opinion, that makes this whole thing, no matter how many false allegations there are, outright terrible. You can say this was 10 years ago, but nevertheless, it still happened. And it really only does just create more smoke in this situation, because if he was willing to have an inappropriate relationship in the past, what's really stopping him from having one in the future? You know, he's already done it. He's already put himself into that. He's already guilty of that. So in my mind, he would then be thinking, well, you know, I've already done it once, twice isn't really going to change much. And to be honest, yeah, that's right. If you do it once, it's horrific. And I'm not saying it's a justification to do it twice, but I think that's how a lot of these people think. Now, I know that's not necessarily proof of anything, but given the amount of smoke in this situation at this point, given the amount of inappropriate things we've gone over, I really wouldn't be surprised if there was a case of a lot of the things in this post actually being true. But yeah, let's actually get into the proof of this being Rachel.
So, first, I guess you need to find a vocalist. For my vocalist, I woke up next to her and figured, yeah, she'll do, which, as I understand it, is the usual method a record label executive will use to pick a pop star. But yeah, thanks to Rachie for helping out with the vocals and lyrics on this one. Check out her website, revisewithrachie.com, if you happen to be interested in learning psychology, since that's what she teaches on her site. Link for that below.
But too bad I don't share. I'm just an illusion. I'm just an illusion.
Yeah, since she helped with the words, lyrically it's a cross between a sexy dance pop chick being overly confident and a schizophrenic person coming to terms with a debilitating mental illness. This is what happens when you get a psychology student to help write a pop song. Incidentally, I think it's pretty cool I've managed to fit 2 separate debilitating mental illness references into this 7-day song so far.
Yeah, I know this was a long time ago, but you can't deny this is just, it's just weird. Like, to hear this, my friend, I'm sorry, it's just a bit odd. And I know Dave never really claimed to be a normal bloke. I mean, you don't have to really go past the haircut. No offense. I'm not saying that means anyone with a haircut is you know, allegedly an odd. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying Dave's never really claimed to be a normal non-oddball, and I think this is very much evidence of that. But you're probably thinking, well, where's the evidence that this means it was all actually Rachel? Well, my friends, the weird lyric video was only uploaded a day after the video that I just played you, and given he says in this video that he uses her as a vocalist, I mean, you can really only put 2 and 2 together. The vocalist does sound like Rachel, where he gets her to sing in the video saying it's her, and then a day later he uploads the song. It's obviously Rachel, and this confirms so much. But I even found a comment which is just really weird, saying, oh yeah, thanks for Rachie for dealing with my inappropriate jokes. And I know some people will say, well, this is just a normal thing in a relationship. Well, my friends, it's not normal for an adult to be in a relationship with a child. And there was even comments that I've mentioned before about when he's speaking about the consent lyric, he says that he just want it to be lyrically authentic. What do you mean by that, Dave? I'd love to know what you mean by lyrically authentic in the context of saying, take me without your consent. What does that mean, sunshine? So yeah, not only do we now have an outright confirmation of this relationship, which pretty much just disregards everything in this situation and only confirms this person is terrible, but you also have to look into the things that people will say again, well, this isn't technically illegal. He's dating a child, but also the fact he's dating a child does mean that yes, there is a power dynamic here. And I understand the phrase power dynamic is very overused nowadays on social media, and it's almost a shame that a lot of these terms such as grooming and power dynamics have been outright pretty much just used in situations where they absolutely should not be. I think in this situation, the idea of a power dynamic can definitely be spoken about. And people will say, oh, well, you know, he wasn't famous at that point of time, so how could he have a power dynamic? I think people on the internet really misinterpret what the definition of power dynamic means. You have power dynamics in every single relationship. In particular, a relationship when you are 23 and somebody is 16. You can be in a regular relationship and have a financial I guess power dynamic over somebody. That's completely normal as long as you don't abuse that dynamic. But in this situation, it's pretty much completely unavoidable, given the fact that a 23-year-old should not be dating a 16-year-old in any context. But you've got to think, at 23, you have access to things such as driving, alcohol, cigarettes, you can get into certain events, and that means you hold so much power over a 16-year-old, because obviously that is attractive to a 16-year-old. When I was that age, I would try and make friends with older people than me because I knew that that could get me into things, that could get me things that I couldn't get at 16, and that is a natural power dynamic that obviously any 23-year-old should know they should not go anywhere near. But Dave himself obviously has done that. But sadly, with this post being deleted, a lot of people will now most definitely say, oh, he's now exonerated of everything that he's been accused of, and I just think that's outright wrong, and that is why I have given you the context to all of these things in this situation, and we have built up to this point, because I think it's vital to know the things that are actually true here, and show that that does not mean everything here is now illegitimate because the post does not exist. Dave's posts still exist where he admits these things, and that is vital. And it brings us back to what I mentioned earlier. When you have a bunch of fake allegations, it really does weaken, I guess, the case. And that may sound wrong, but it is just a thing that happens. I'm going to give you a bit of a weird, a bit of a weird scenario, but I think it's kind of applicable. Imagine you have a full bottle of water. Just, you know, add a little bit of Coca-Cola to it, you know, the color starts to go weird, it tastes a little bit different, and then you add a little bit of a Fanta Zero in there. The color starts going even more weird, and the taste is getting a little bit funny now. And then you add more and more random juices and liquids and everything you can think of that can go into a bottle of water. The water bottle starts to overflow, the taste isn't the same, the color's not the same, but ultimately, there is still water in that bottle, but it's now kind of become diluted. It's now no longer not just a bottle of clear water, it's a mix of random things that nobody wants. And now imagine that bottle of water is a real, serious, proven form of thing in this situation. I know it's not the best English, but that is the proven age gap in this relationship between Rachel and Dave. And then imagine you've, you know, poured in a load of unproven things which have really nothing to back them, and even the allegation of this whole thing goes into a double-digit amount of victims without any necessary proof of anybody, you know, attaching their names or images to those victims. It starts to get a little bit funny. It starts to become diluted. It starts to allow a lot of people to say there are false allegations in this situation, meaning people can start to just deflect and push things aside and sweep them under the rug under the pretense of false allegations. It actually happened with James Charles. There were a lot of false allegations towards him, and a lot of people started to look past James Charles's real actions because of the false ones. It's just something that happens, and I think it is a problem if we focus necessarily just on the false things. I think we need to focus on the real scenarios which we've gone through in this situation, and that is only further proven by this video.
But yeah, thanks to Rachie for helping out with the vocals and lyrics on this one.
So I guess this does just now move us into the real talking point of this conversation of, well, if it wasn't any of the things we've spoken about previously, why was this post actually deleted? And of course, that rounds us back to the legalities aspect of this. Is Dave Boyinaband actually suing the people in this situation? Well, let's go back to that Reddit post speaking about how weird this situation is. Basically, they did another edit updating it saying that apparently Dave knows who wrote the original letter, and they said, why are they trying so hard to stay anonymous to the point of not actually giving evidence? And then weirdly enough, this then links to another Reddit post of where somebody is actually agreeing to a now deleted comment, and then in that comment they are pretty much just speaking about slander and libel, and then when you go above these comments they are then referencing to another Reddit post of where there is a mysterious link to 2 messages. Now this message pretty much just alleges that Dave, I guess, is trying to sue people in this situation, or is at least investigating people in this situation. It's It's a very, very strange screenshot, and in fact, the person does respond to this screenshot pretty confidently. And honestly, I don't know if this is just like a personal thing, but I've received lawsuits in my past. I've made videos on my podcast joking about it, but when you first do get those lawsuits, I personally shit myself, even though every single time they're usually outright fucking bullshit, especially in more, I guess, countries like America and Britain. It's kind of hard to prove slander. It really is, especially on the internet, and especially when it's by anonymous Reddit accounts. So looking at this post, it is a little bit strange, and there is no real evidence to suggest that this is actually real. And in fact, if I wanted to get a few upvotes on Boyinaband's Reddit, I could probably make and forge a in fact, I'm going to do it right now. Here is a message of me saying I'm being sued by, I don't know, Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast didn't like the fact that I chronically shat my pants when I consumed Carl's grilled cheese. Now, that's actually not a joke. Well, I didn't shit my pants. I do need to confirm. But Mr. Beast Burger, it gave me the poos. Fair play, after I made some criticism, Mr. Beast actually did follow me. I don't know why I'm speaking about this. This is probably the rambling people can get complaining about. But alas, I can make these messages up. You know, I can. And I'm not denying that it's real, but again, it comes under the thing of how do we know it's real? You need some, I guess, backing here, because in a situation like that, there are always going to be clout-hungry vultures. But a lawsuit would definitely explain a lot, my friends. It would explain Dave's silence because, you know, if he actually said anything on a situation, it could possibly damage his case, and it would also explain the fact that the post was removed because it could be a possible thing here that Dave is suing this person, and this person wanted to pretty much strengthen their case by basically removing everything that they have posted about Dave on the internet to kind of get out of things. Now, there is no real evidence to suggest that. I do have to keep saying that, but it would explain a lot here. But even if that was the case, I don't think that would be a good idea for Dave. I really don't, and honestly, I think Dave does actually know that. I don't think Boyinaband is actually a stupid person. I think when you watch this guy's videos, you get an understanding of who he is. I've watched this guy for a very long time, not every single video, but I think I know the guy from his content quite well, and he comes off as an intelligent person for the most part, and I don't think suing a potential victim is a route he would think is necessarily a smart one, given the social economic climate of the world. Suing victims or even alleged victims is never a good route to go down if you're trying to defend yourself, because it does just come off like silencing, and it can bring into the irrefutable question of, if you are innocent, why can't you just prove yourself to be innocent rather than forcing somebody to be silent in a mean of, you know, financial resources? Because I imagine Boyinaband does have a lot of money. In fact, no, I don't even know why I'm kind of hypothesizing on this. No, he definitely outright is very, very wealthy. His merch sales, his views, his song sales, everything this man has done over the last 10 years, he has definitely accumulated a lot of wealth, and he could outright obviously go and sue anybody he most possibly wants with really, really good and expensive lawyers, because he has obviously got a lot of money, and that's obviously a power dynamic in the sense of, oh, look at this big wealthy man with a big social status going to use his power and wealth to silence an accuser. How many 9 billion times have we heard that before in Hollywood and social media? It is a very, very bad look. It's a very, very bad thing to do, because naturally a lot of people will say, why can you not just prove your innocence without having to silence somebody? And that is a very, very valid and vital question. Again, Dave hasn't done this in this situation as far as I know, but it would be a pretty valid explanation to why this post has just been deleted. Now, you could obviously say that the post was deleted because possibly there were just, you know, reasons such as maybe the person was getting stressed of the situation, maybe it was more that they could handle and they thought, you know what, I want out. But again, it was an anonymous Reddit account. Surely they could have just logged out, made a new account based on their own public, actual real life profile, because this account really had nothing attached to anybody personal, so I really don't know why that would mean they need to completely detach themselves from this situation. So there are a plethora of reasons to why this thing could be gone, but I don't think we're ever going to know until somebody in this situation finally speaks up. up. So where does that leave us in this situation? How do Boyinaband fans go about their days now, knowing that they will never see Boyinaband in a content co-op again? Thank God, because honestly, as much as you can say you rate the bloke's music, he was the worst part of that diss track. But alas, where do we go? Because this is very weird. It's different to a lot of situations of where usually it's somebody will get accused of something, they'll be cast out, or they will, pretty instantly in the next few months clear themselves, or even just get to a point of where it's like, well, they come out and respond and, they do have some fans remaining. Look at Shane Dawson, for example, was accused of a lot of things, lost a massive part of his audience, but the bloke's still kicking. He's still getting 1 million views a video, and when you're accused of some of the things he was accused of, such as putting things into areas of certain ginger kittens, well, to get 1 million views a piece after that is pretty impressive. So it does happen. So what's going on here? Why is he not responding after 4 months? In my opinion, it's not looking good, Brev. The post being deleted is no doubt definitely weird, and obviously it does put a lot of doubts into my mind, which I already had in my previous video, but given the fact that we have reevaluated a lot of things in this situation, and given the fact that things have actually gotten worse since, I really can't change my stance that I do think this bloke is pretty much indefensible, and I don't think he can really rat his way out of this situation. I think it's actually quite shameful that he's not even come out and said, hey man, I'm just like trying to work on a response right now, please give me time. If he did that, I genuinely believe that the public would say, okay, we will wait and we will see what you have to say. But he hasn't even done that. And given the fact that so many people are saying this whole thing has no validity to it, it's such a basic, easy thing to dismantle, well, why would Dave not come out and dismantle it? It's not like these allegations haven't blown up. It seems that loads of people on social media now think this guy is very much a predator, so why would he not come out and clear his name if it was so easy? It's a very confusing thing, and I think it may be down to the fact that there are some indefensible things in this situation. Sure, it's suspicious, and sure, there are definitely some inaccuracies here, but ultimately, I don't think the inaccuracies necessarily exonerates Dave of the extremely creepy things that we have gone through today. I'm going to end this video by saying I don't really know where the situation has gone, and I would only give the advice to Dave to, hey man, please just come out and speak about this, because honestly, it's getting to a point of where I'm starting to think, how long can we really wait for a defense? But yeah, who knows? Maybe he will. I hope we get an explanation to things, and I'll be sure to cover it if he does. Who knows? Maybe there will be an ideal world where he actually somehow proves his innocence in absolutely everything. Not really sure how, but I would be open to it, of course. That's why I'm not outright saying all of these things are true, because maybe, just maybe, there will be this massive flip. I don't know, but I can't really see it right now. That is the ending of this video. Please give me your opinions down below. I would genuinely love to hear from you all, because this is a very, very big situation, and I think it's important to, have a discussion, get our opinions out there. So comment down below, and also please like this video, and please just subscribe. Thank you so much, everybody. Please follow my social medias at inabber69, inabber on Instagram, and the Buddies podcast is back. It's all in the description. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, and have a cracking day.